Hey everybody, I'm back. John Hope Bryant, founder, chairman, chief executive officer of Operation Hope, author of How the Poor Can Save Capitalism and Love Leadership, CEO of Bryant Group Ventures, entrepreneur and businessman and philanthropic investor. Today, talking about what I'm building. If you join this conversation, you can log in below, ask your questions below. I will try to answer them in real time. And if we catch each other once I'm offline, I'll come back and answer them then. I am talking about today what I'm building. First in the series, this one's called Hope Business in a Box Academies. So I just came back from Detroit yesterday, and I see Steve Jobs on every corner. That's right. I see a Steve Jobs on every corner of Detroit, Michigan, and every corner of an inner city school, inner city community in America. What do I mean by that? And I want to commend, by the way, Gene Wiles, who gave me this check for $50 for my birthday to invest in the Hope Business in a Box Academy. I'll get to that in a minute. She's one of my friends around the corner. So Steve Jobs, let's talk about that. Steve Jobs was a Syrian immigrant. You don't know that. He had a Syrian father, and he had a mainstream mother, Caucasian, in the Midwest. The mother was from the Midwest. The dad didn't like the fact that the father was Syrian, would not allow her to marry Steve Jobs' father, biological father, so forced the family to put the child up for adoption. Luckily, the lady decided to try to get adoption done in San Francisco. One of the highly intelligent family, wealthy family to adopt the child. The first adoption didn't work out so well. It actually lasted about a year, this back and forth. The second couple that decided to adopt Steve Jobs was actually moderately educated, upper middle class family. The father, Mr. Jobs, was a mechanical engineer, okay, and he got adopted in this family, and their friend, another childhood friend, was Wozniak. Right? Another family that was mechanical engineering oriented, and those two kids got together, and in the soil of Silicon Valley, one thing led to another. The garage called, Apple now was created, and that changed everybody's world. But what if Steve Jobs had been born into an inner city in Detroit? What if Steve Jobs had been born into a black family on the south side of Chicago, or to a rural family in someplace in Pennsylvania? The world would be different. All of our lives, I wouldn't be able to do this to you because I'm actually doing this on an iPad Pro. I'm talking to you right now on an iPad Pro. All of us are infected and impacted by the life of Steve Jobs. But Steve Jobs was not only brilliant, he was wrapped in the right soil. So here's what I'm going to do. I think there are Steve Jobs on every street corner in America. Let me say something that's politically incorrect. If you're a drug dealer, it's immoral, it's unethical. It's a special place in hell reserved for somebody who sells death to their own community. But if you're a successful drug dealer, one thing you're not is dumb. You understand import, export, finance, marketing, wholesale, retail, customer service, security, logistics. You're not a dumb kid. You're a misdirected kid with bad role models and a bad environment and bad soil. But you are brilliant, right? You are brilliant. Let's give a mainstream example of this. Where did stock car racing come from? Where did NASCAR come from? It came from running moonshine. These guys, criminals, in the hills of the Appalachians or wherever, were running from the police, running moonshine. They got so good at it, they said this career does not have a life expectancy. We won't live very long, and it's illegal. Let's try to find a way to reimagine our skill set, use these same skills someplace else, and that turned into road racing, which turned into NASCAR, stock car racing, which turned into a multi-billion-dollar global industry, right? They took something negative and made something positive. These drug dealers are natural entrepreneurs. They could be Steve Jobs if they have the right soil, the right information, the right tools. So here's what I'm going to do. And I'm not just talking about the drug dealers. I'm not just talking about kids who are knuckleheads. There's a number of our kids who are brilliant in these urban and rural communities, whether it's Alaska, whether it's Utah, whether it's Detroit, Chicago, South Central LA, who have no idea what the word entrepreneur means. They've never heard it before, right? When I was growing up in South Central LA, the banker came in my classroom to teach financial literacy. I said, man, what do you do for a living? How'd you get rich legally? I was serious because nobody in my neighborhood, wore a suit. He wore a blue suit, red tie, and a white shirt, red tie, and blue suit. He said, I'm an entrepreneur. I'm a banker, and I finance entrepreneurs. I said, sir, I don't know what an entrepreneur is, whether you're financing, I'm going to be one. So what I'm going to do today and going forward through 2020, year 2020, through Operation Opus Finance, a generation of young entrepreneurs, me and my partners. All right. So here's what we're doing: Hope Business in a Box Academies, and this is what Jean Wiles wrote this check for $50 for. She does it every day, every time on my birthday, by the way. Don't give me money, give some money to the movement. So every kid will go through a course in financial literacy because they have to understand the language of money. Every kid will go through a course in entrepreneurship. Every kid will go through a course in dignity, through global dignity, because you can't pray in schools anymore, but we need values. Amen to that. Say amen to that. Hey, Tiffany. Hey, Abdi, Mary, others who joined in the conversation. Every kid will have 25 businesses they can start for $500 or less to pick from. And they'll pick a business idea, right? And they'll do a short form business plan. And then we're going to do a pitch event in their auditorium twice a year. Think Shark Tank for kids. The kid gets 2 minutes to pitch their business idea. There's a timer there. The judges are not celebrities. They're local entrepreneurs and business people and role models, people just like you and me. If the kid wins the pitch, we'll fund them up to $500. Did you hear me? If you're in elementary school, it's up to $100. It's up to middle school, it's up to $250. If you're in high school, it's up to $500 for an award for you to become a young entrepreneur. The money now has to go into a bank account. You know, there's 40 million people in this country who are unbanked or underbanked. That's a crime. That's a sin. And we need to fix that. And I think we fix that through aspiration and inspiration and incentives. And that money now I'm giving this kid, investing that kid, has to go into a bank account. So now they're going to get that experience that you and I had growing up of a passbook account that we had that changed our life. I still remember my physical passbook account. Do you? Do you remember that physical passbook account that somebody gave you growing up? And then we're going to assign a business role model to this person, let them work with them for an hour a week for 10 weeks to stand up a business. And Gallup's going to measure Entrepreneurship Strength Finders, our partnership with Gallup, a 100-year partnership with the Gallup organization. And Jim Clifton, their CEO, wrote a great book called The Coming Jobs War, by the way. I recommend you read it. So they're going to do Entrepreneurship Strength Finders on the front end so that we know what the kids are good at. Then on the back end of that experience, they're going to do Gallup Hope Index. Look that up, Gallup Hope Index, which measures hope, well-being, engagement, financial literacy, and economic energy. Because these kids, we're all energy, right? We're all energy. We're not, as I said earlier, we're not human beings having a spiritual experience. We're spiritual beings having a human experience, right? It's 70% of your body's water. We're all energy. What kind of energy are we pouring into these kids? I talked the video before this about hope. Is that energy being poured into these kids? And so I think that experience, if we can do that in 1,000 public schools between now and 2020, urban and rural, across this country, giving a kid a chance to give them a hand up and not a handout. Let them, if you can't get a job, create a job. I think that we can reset everything. Now, I have another strategy for internships. I'll talk about that another time. But this is my create a job strategy, 4th grade through 12th grade in urban schools in America. Hope Business in a Box Academies. Bringing this to Detroit, bringing this to South Central LA, bringing this to Atlanta, bringing this into cities where you can go to our operational website and see where we're going with this, with our partners who are funding these grant awards and doing some of the mentoring. And I think that this will, well, I want your opinion. Will this keep kids in school? Do you think that a kid knowing that they can go, can have this experience, somebody can invest in their idea, to start a business, to create something great, that will this keep them in school? Hey, minus Dion for joining. Mary says amen. Tiffany Greer says she works. I work in the 38126 zip code, one of the highest poverty rates in the country, not far from Dr. King's assassination at the Lorraine Motel in Memphis. My students are brilliant, and they're very entrepreneurial. They inspire me daily and have extremely innovative ideas that need to be nurtured. So let me ask you a question, Tiffany. Yes, John, Steve Jobs' story is so empowering. Thank you. Let me ask you a question here. So if a kid wants to be a football star, is there a system for that? Yes. They want to be a baseball star. System for that? Yes. You are in Canada. You want to be in the National Hockey League. They'll tell you by in the elementary school, they'll farm club you all the way up into the NHL, the National Hockey League, right? It used to be music. If there was a music and band class, but if you want to be an entrepreneur or a small business owner, there's no system for that. Yet the whole country is built on jobs and entrepreneurship and economic energy, But we have no system tying education to aspiration. I want to reset the education system. I want to reimagine how we look at ourselves and what our kids are focused on. And I want to crush the dropout rate by robbing hopelessness from the hearts of these kids. I want them to believe in themselves again. I want them to have hope for a reason again. I want them to start a business, not because I think that everybody can be an entrepreneur, but because even if they don't, they'll become resilient. They'll become immune to failure. Because success is going from failure to failure without loss of enthusiasm. Here's a quote for you. Success is going from failure to failure without loss of enthusiasm. If you're running a household today, you need to be entrepreneurial because you've got too much month at the end of your money. Amen? Somebody tell me. If you are running a department in a government agency today, you need to be entrepreneurial because your budget doesn't extend to all the resources, the things that you need. If you are, I don't know, you've got mortgage payments and car notes, you better be entrepreneurial. You got to be creative about how you solve these problems. You're doing anything today, you must be entrepreneurial. We need an entrepreneurial mindset of a hand up and not a hand out. And I think we can do this at scale in our elementary schools. And I think that this Hope Business Box strategy is a way to get that moving. Thank you very much, Gene Wiles. This $50 investment in a new Hope Business Box award for a kid on my birthday, I genuinely appreciate that. I'm encouraging anybody who's got $50, right, or $25. It's a 501c3 nonprofit. You can create your own Hope Business Box award at operationhope.org. You can sign up to sponsor a kid to start a business, or if you don't have money, join as a role model to help the kid with the business, or just become a financial literacy volunteer. But this is the new civil rights movement. Everybody can do this, right? And you'll see the list of companies that are supporting the movement, and you'll see you're in good company. All right, I'm done. This is 11 minutes, one of my longer videos. I try to keep them below 10. John Donato says school needs more personal development in order for them to realize their true self. I agree with that. More personal development. Minus Dion, how do I direct my 9 to 10-year-old boys to think entrepreneurial and I have no experience in entrepreneurship? Thank you for saying what you don't have, but what you do have is hope. What you do have is love for your kids. I wrote a book called Banking on Our Future 20 years ago, which is really designed to help kids with financial literacy. You can read that book with your children. Email Rachel.Doff, RACHAEL.DOFF at operational.org. Tell her Minus that I told you to email her to give you a free copy of that book. All right, love you guys much. Read How the Poor Can Save Capitalism. It'll give you a detailed plan on what I discussed today. Go to the website, sign up. This is the civil rights movement. It's going to be in the suites, not the streets. This movement will be digital. I'm out.